you have to be real with yourself to a point where you create so that you can inspire other people. But if other people don't care, it's totally fine. You got to be totally content with creating just for the matter of creating because you love it.
Yo, what is good, creators? Welcome to the Create to Inspire Corner, where I, your host Coriel, interview creatives from around the world. I'm going to share their stories to give you some of the creative inspo you need so you can go on and create to inspire in your own community. And today's topic is all about using creativity and vulnerability to heal. But before we get into today's episode, I want to give a huge shout out to a special friend of mine and today's sponsor, Julian, for hooking us up with this awesome microphone to help increase the audio and sound quality of our show. We want to support Create to Inspire, our mission and our movement of sharing the inspiring stories of artists around the world. Even small gestures like liking this video, commenting below, and subscribing to our channel makes a big difference. Anyways, let's get right into the interview. Today's featured creative is a musician and songwriter. His name is Isaac, and he goes by the name of IRG. And today, you're not only going to get to hear about his story, his music, and his passions, also going to be talking with him about his viewpoints on the relationship between creativity and vulnerability, and how he uses his music to heal and inspire. Anyways, get right into it. Isaac, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming to the corner.
Oh man, thank you so much. I'm doing well, and I just can't complain. I can't complain. Everything's been going really well.
Sounds good, man. So first off, can you tell us a little about yourself and your passions, what you like to create? And I'll mention a little bit, but can you kind of give us a little more of the 360 view, what you're up to?
Yeah, no, I guess passions, it's all the way from, soccer to music to networking to watching movies, all different things like that. I just, I love film. I love music. Like I said, I like making music. I like listening to music. I like leading people in creative aspects and helping bring, multiple crafts together to make one big project. That's one of the biggest things that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that. Can you actually tell us a little bit more about, your music story? How did you discover music? When did you first know that, okay, this is something that I want to do, this is something that I want to embrace?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I just, I never really been musically gifted as a child, I would say. You know what I mean? It wasn't something like I knew from an early age I just wanted to make music. It wasn't like that at all. Like like a lot of other kids, I was in the elementary school band, type thing, and I played clarinet and all this. But like I played for only 2 years, and I forgot everything about it. I forgot all the sheet music that I learned for it, all the different stuff like that. But I think I really came to music after, being in a dark place. So I wasn't in a dark place. I graduated college in high school in 2015. And then I went to a university called Millersville University. It's a state school, and it's good for people who want to be teachers and stuff like that. It's really, really good in Pennsylvania. Just like the culture though wasn't the best for me. It just wasn't a good culture for me to be in. And I felt very, very alone, and especially in my faith. And because of that, I transferred out and I went to a Christian Bible school, which is called Lancaster Bible. But through that transition is where I found music, because I really noticed that I had a direction with my life of the career I wanted, but I didn't have an outlet for a creative outlet, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to get involved with the church. I wanted to help in some type of way, shape, or form. But I also wanted to have something where if I come home after a long day, I can just dive into something that will take my mind off of anything else. And music was that for me. Some people it's soccer, some people it's basketball, some people it's video editing, or you know what I mean? But for me, it was music. And it wasn't music in a sense of go home, play the guitar, or go home, play the piano. It was from a sense of I really was attracted to Logic Pro X and different types of DAWs, and doing watching YouTube videos on how to create beats and how to sing and do all these different things. But all from my computer. You know what I mean? I wanted to just learn MIDI, and I wanted to do everything from my computer. I didn't want to have to go to guitar lessons every Wednesday and pay $20, and pay $20. I wasn't trying to do that. I just wanted something that I could, even just open GarageBand and just do it on my own, and that would be my form of therapy. So that's what it started out as in 2017. And then in 2018, the beginning of 2018 is when I started to actually be like, okay, maybe like I'm getting better at this every day. I can start releasing some music. So I started releasing just singles after single after single. And then my first track that actually kind of had some buzz around it was Pick Up the Phone, which had, I think it has like around 120K streams on Spotify. So that kind of got me to a point where it's like, oh, wow, like I can actually make something that a lot of people are vibing with. It's not just like falling on deaf ears. Mm-hmm. So that gave me a push to take it a lot more seriously. And then I put out a song in 2018, I believe, called New Jersey, which then that is like my biggest song. It's almost at 500K streams right now on Spotify. And that was probably my best written track to date. And it shows obviously from the numbers, and but yeah, so and from that on, it just every day I keep taking it more and more seriously, and I was able to kind of turn this into like a legitimate side hustle where it's actually bringing in some money that it's like another form of revenue, and I'm just building on top of it, and like I said, it's not all about the numbers, not all about the money or anything like that, but having that stuff helps justify me pouring more into it, and seeing the return of investment in a sense helps me to justify, okay, like I can allocate this and I can invest in this craft because it's showing that like it's prospering, it's growing, So I'm sure that in your own way, shape, and form for your craft and what you do and your interviews and everything, the more you put into it, the more that comes out of it and the more that it grows. So then that's kind of where it's been taken off lately.
Definitely. So yeah, something that else you put into, I know your latest album, Too Much to Type, but that was a great album. Can you tell us a little about that album, what inspired it, and kind of the story behind it?
Yeah. Thank you again for listening and loving it, because that was me and Christian, we put our whole heart and soul into that, and Zach as well. So basically it was when everything started to take off and I started putting I put New Jersey out there, and that started to get a lot of buzz. I started to get a lot more networking connections, people hitting me up, reaching out to me. And one of the people that reached out to me was Christian. Yeah. So Christian, me and him, he really started liking my music a lot, and I liked his, and we were like, man, we should work on something together. And a long time ago, or not a long time ago, but I can't remember when, but I don't know if you're familiar with Devin Terrell or Futuristic. So yeah, they're two rappers basically. Futuristic made a song with NF called Epiphany. And then Devin Terrell is like a big YouTube guy that just kind of like, this is, if you want to know how to do this on Logic Pro X, this is how you do it. You know what I mean? And he does a lot of tutorials, and he also puts out a lot of his own music too. Yeah. So basically they made like a collab album together, and it was just them too. And me and Christian had a vision to do the same thing. But we wanted to do on Too Much to Type. And then Zach was the executive producer on that. He did a lot of production on that. So that's why you see all of our three names listed for Too Much to Type. So what happened was, when we first started working on it, Christian came down by himself for a whole week, and we pretty much just locked ourselves in my room and we just worked on music for a whole week. And we probably got about half of the album done. And then he left. He flew up from South Carolina to do this. And then he left after that. And then we kind of just were working as best as we could online. And then he came back up with Zach for another whole week. And this was actually during right in the beginning of COVID. And we did the same thing. We just locked ourselves in the room for like a week. And we just worked on music and we finished it up. So it was like a 2-week process for working on it 12 hours a day, and it was perfect because I was in college and there was not really, and there wasn't any really responsibilities. And especially with COVID that came, the pandemic, and everyone was stuck at home, it kind of just worked out. So the time wasn't an issue, but And we did that. We did a lot of, and we recorded the whole process too. We recorded it and put it all on YouTube. So it was like a 40-minute documentary of just those 2 weeks put together. So we like had like, I don't even know how many hours of footage we had. We had like almost 50 hours of footage, and we just cut it down to 40 minutes. It was crazy. But it was a really intense project, and it took a lot out of us, and we butted heads sometimes, but it really worked out, and it made me realize, it really is difficult to work with anyone for that long. You know what I mean? It's not just him or me. It was just difficult to work with, but because there's certain ways that they make music that I don't make music in, and there's some ways I do things that they don't do it. And it made us clash, but in a good way. So we were able to work through those obstacles, and I'm a better musician for it now, an artist.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I checked out the documentary that you guys recorded. It was cool seeing you guys collaborate and kind of seeing kind of the behind the scenes of the project and everything. Can you tell me about the title, Too Much to Type? What's kind of the energy behind that name? What made you choose that name for the album, or you guys?
Yeah, it was more so just like, so we all struggle with different things. And, like, for example, at least from a lyrical standpoint, I struggle with a lot of anxiety. Christian struggles with a lot of depression. That's kind of like, and that kind of morphed into Too Much to Type, because it was like, it's too much just to type in a text. And, you can't just do that. We had to take 7 songs and really just put it all out there. It was too much just to type in a single text to someone, so that's kind of our vision for it.
Yeah, one thing I liked about your music, and especially this album, is how you guys talk about a lot of the topics that it can be easy to kind of want to ignore sometimes, like you mentioned, depression, anxiety, all that stuff. But I want to ask you, another thing that I saw though was a hope in the music, that we're going through this stuff. We are feeling this way, but there's a hope and a sense of healing that can be brought about. And I want to ask you, how have you seen the relationship of music and healing? Have they played a role with each other in your life?
So with music and healing, like, at least for me, like I said before, it was more of it started off as like a form of therapy and a form of like an escape to get away from just the things that were just too much for me to handle. So it was like, and if I didn't have that like release of just like, let me just go lock myself in the room for an hour and just work on music. If I didn't have that, I'd go and sing, so that from that, it was like more of a therapy. But like, as of now, it kind of turned into like almost a necessity, like water. It's like, I don't feel like I'm productive in my day if I don't do something regarding music, even if it's just for 5 minutes. It's just something that's always like, okay, that decision can make me move more and more in the right direction of where I want to take this in the future. So it's turned more in like, from a healing aspect, I guess it's made me find a purpose in some aspect of things, which is a lot of people struggle with the anxiety of like, what's my purpose? Why am I here on this earth? Why am I here in this world? And what am I supposed to do with my life? For me, it's given me a purpose, not my whole purpose for my life, but definitely it's given me a direction I can go with my free time. A lot of people, like, they find purpose with their day job, and that's perfect. But then they come home and they, just every evening so they eat and then they watch Netflix. You know what I mean? Which is fine, but that's not like, I don't think that's what God's called us to do. It's not an issue to do that every once in a while, but there's a bigger purpose that we're called to, and for us to be better stewards of our time, and I think that this has kind of filled that void for me and in a fun way, to like, I'm not just filling it because, God's called me to fill it, with something and it's going to be boring. No, it's like a fun thing that I filled it with, and I can use it to glorify him. So that's how I view it.
I love it, man. So kind of relating to the concept of healing, feeling that void, like you said, an exciting and fun way. I put together kind of a HEAL acronym that can kind of help us to dive more into this topic. 'Cause I know there's a lot of people, have that same mindset. Music is a form of, healing for them, it's a therapy for them. I really wanted to dive that more into that topic with you. And so starting off with the HEAL acronym, the first one is H. Lately, I'm feeling like Yo, what is good, creators? Welcome to the Create to Inspire Corner, where I, your host, Coriel, interview creatives from around the world. I'm going to share their stories to give you some of the creative inspo you need so you can go on and create to inspire in your own community. So starting off with the HEAL acronym, the first one is H, and it stands for honesty. You have to be real. In order to heal, we have to be real. I know you mentioned earlier how you transitioned from different college. Okay, so when you first made music, what was kind of that moment where you had to really be real with yourself and really get these feelings out that you had on paper, just write about how you were feeling? Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I think so. When I first started making music, and I was going through that whole transition of transferring colleges, and I was getting out of a toxic relationship, and it was just a situation where I was kind of just bottling up my feelings, because that's kind of how I was like taught to do it, like or not taught to do it, but that's kind of just what I saw, and like with my father, and I'm not putting him down by any means, but he was taught in his generation not to talk about your feelings. He was taught to bottle everything up, and that you're being soft if you talk about those feelings. So he never really talked about them, and that's kind of just what I saw. And then for me, it just kind of, I really struggled with that for a while, of like, I have an issue, I have a problem, and I'm like, I don't feel like I can talk to anyone about it, because if I do, it's showing weakness. So I really struggled with that for a while. I don't struggle with that anymore. But that was kind of, I couldn't do it in a talking aspect, but I could do it in a musical aspect. So that's where that honesty was able to flow. So, and then because I was able to be more honest in my music and flow through the words in the songs, then it helped me, give me the courage to do it in regular talking conversations with people. So that's for me specifically, that's how it worked out.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little about the relationship between creativity and vulnerability? How do you think those two play a role with each other? I know you talked a little bit about in your life personally. What do you think how do those two impact other people, and even impact the person themselves who are embracing creativity and vulnerability kind of together?
Well, I think that a lot of people can force being creative, but I think, and that's fine, and people will vibe with it for a little bit. But if you're not vulnerable with that, over time, people are going to see through that, and people are going to, they're going to be like, oh, that was cool. And then on to the next thing. It's not going to stick. But if you're vulnerable and you're trying to be creative with that vulnerability, that's going to stick. That's what's going to be remembered.
Definitely. So I think a reason why people are afraid to be vulnerable a lot of times is because, worrying about what other people will think. And that kind of is a good transition to the next letter in the HEAL acronym. So next one is E, for eliminating, worrying about other people, and eliminating worry about, just having control. And I wanted to ask you, what mindset helps you when you're writing music, especially, this album that you wrote, Too Much to Type? What mindset helped you not to worry about what other people have thought, and really just hone in and focus on what you were wanting to create?
I think for me, the biggest thing is that we're all on a different journey. We're all at different stages of that journey. And for me, it's I trust the process. I trust, I like putting my hands in the dirt and grinding and going after it. And even if it's like a small nudge of a growth each day in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not a huge growth, it's little steps over time create big differences. And the people that, are with me and they see that and they appreciate that, that's totally fine. And that's great. And the people that don't, that's fine too. But like, they're not going to do the growing for me. You know, they're not going to, um, like if I was to fail and be done with this and not work on it anymore and be totally done with music, they're not really going to blink an eye because they're not in my life. You know what I mean? I'm not at that stardom. Like if it was Justin Bieber or if it was like Kid Laroi or something different, that would be a little bit different because everyone would be like, oh my gosh, the world's ending. Justin Bieber's not making any music anymore. Like that, because he's reached that level of stardom. For me, it's like for underground indie artists, like they're not gonna care because you know, it's like they're not not a public figure like that. And that's fine. You know, that's totally fine. It's just the situations where it's like you have to be real with yourself to a point where you create so that you can inspire other people. But if other people don't care, like it's totally fine. Like you got to be able to, you got to be totally content with creating just for the matter of creating because you love it. And even if it's just for one person, or even if it's just for yourself because you need it, then that's what it is, you know. So that's how I view it.
Yeah. So if there's someone who's watching this show, listening to this podcast, and they might be in that position of conflict where they have this piece of art, they have this something that they've written out, they put together, they put all the work in, but that, you know, that constant voice of like, a concern of worrying about other people, worrying about control, worrying about opinions, what advice would you give them that you think that would help them to get that final push out, even if it is in the end their final decision to do so? What piece of advice would you give them?
The biggest piece of advice is that be very, very open and welcome to all the criticism that you can get. Because in my opinion, someone should not be a creative if they cannot handle any criticism. In my opinion, they shouldn't be a creative if they can't, because it's like if you're displaying a work out there, people are unique. They're going to have different thoughts and feelings about whatever. If I look at a painting, I might feel and I might feel a totally different way about it than what you might feel if you looked at it. You know, and it might be a negative, it might be a positive. That's just how it is. But people, you can't take it personal because the people, they're talking about the art. They're not talking about you as an individual. Everyone has different tastes and styles that they like. It's just a preference. It doesn't mean that your stuff's bad. It doesn't mean that your stuff's amazing. It's just, it's subjective.
I like what you mentioned earlier about, you know, having an intention of creating to inspire, but also being willing to, you know, sometimes just create to create because we enjoy it. I think that's something that's important as well. Because like you said earlier, it's a therapy. It used to be a therapy for you, something that you went to, something that you go to. So not worrying about other people's control or opinions can help you really just hone in and do what you love. And so the next acronym, part of the acronym, which is an A, it stands for allowing those emotions, like we talked about, to be released. And I want to ask you for this point, what was your favorite song on the album, Too Much to Type, and where you felt like you really just let it out?
Oh, that was the 3 a.m. interlude. That was my favorite. I think it was like the first time that was the first time that I really pushed my voice in general and actually put it out for people to listen to, which a lot of my tracks ended up coming up have a lot of me pushing my voice. And then also too, it was I think for me, it was the most vulnerable track for that I was on in the album because of just it was so literal for me, because I would always stay up till like 3, 4, 5 in the morning, wake up and go to class at like 9, you know, and then I'd do the same thing. I was barely sleeping. And the reason I was barely sleeping because I was like on Adderall all the time. And I obviously I haven't been on it for 2 years, but I was on it. And it was just every time I'd go back for my checkup every 3 months, then they just raised my dosage by 5 milligrams. And I got up to like 35 milligrams extended release. It was just terrible. And I felt like a zombie, and I felt like when I was on and I was like hyperactive and I was in your face. And then when I was off, I was like, I don't want anyone near me. I just wanted, you know, it was just such a, I don't want to put this label on it, but it was very similar to like bipolar tendencies. So it was just it was very unhealthy. And that was my release from that. When I put that out, I was like, no more, I'm done. You know, I'm over it.
So the last letter of the acronym, which stands for L, which stands for leading others through what you've gone through, what you've accomplished. I think this is one of the most beautiful things in art, being able to go through something like we talked about earlier, being able to go through these emotions, go through these experiences, like you're talking about with, the experiences you had in college, 3 a.m., waking up at 3 a.m., staying up, all these different experiences, and being allowing to put those emotions on the paper and then create it into this form of art that you can give to other people as a personal guide to help them get through something that you've already gone through. What do you think is the importance of this, and how has this played a role in your life?
So the importance of it, I think it's very important because people don't understand, but no matter how big your audience is, even if it's one person or 100,000 people, you're on a stage. You know what I mean? You're an example. And if you're gonna influence that person in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a very small amount where they're like, oh yeah, that influenced me not to listen to your music anymore, or if it influenced me in a huge impactful way of like, this is how I'm gonna live my life now. Like you're influencing people, you're influencing them. So it's important, for me to lead creatively for people that I don't even realize are watching, honestly. And that like the cameras are always on me. The cameras are always on everybody. Even if you don't do a creative thing in your body, like your kids are watching you. If you're a dad that goes to work every day and that's all he does with his life, your kids watch you. Your kids watch how you interact with your wife or your husband. And also your wife is watching you, just how you interact with your kids. And it's like everyone's on display, and it does no different for creatives, but it's just for now, it's like, with that, it's like you can have an impact on someone that lasts forever because it's online. You know what I mean? And it can keep impacting people over and over and over again, years down the road, because when it's online, it's forever. So I think it's really important, because it can be used as a really, really good tool, a really positive tool, but it can also be a very, very negative tool too. So it's important for us to discern discern is not the right word. I would say be very, very strategic with every step that you take, and be very, very intentional and understand what the consequences are, whether they're good or bad.
So I know earlier we kind of going back to the album Too Much to Type, watched the documentary. Like I said, it was dope watching you guys work together, all that kind of stuff. What was it like, being able to collaborate, with your homies, making music? And also, I know this is vulnerable stuff you guys are writing about. How did it help you guys connect as individuals, being able to go through these 12-hour runs, writing music, being vulnerable, letting those feelings out with each other? How do you think the relationship between creativity, vulnerability, and collaboration kind of play with each other?
I think for one, it made us closer friends than ever. I have, with whatever friends you have, there's a different level of a relationship with each of those friends. Someone's like your best friend that you talk to all the time. And then there's like maybe 4 or 5 people that are like really, really close friends. And then there's like maybe 10 that are like acquaintances, but also like really like they're friends, you consider them friends. But for that, it's like after these experiences, like those guys feel like my brothers, you know what I mean? And I've only ever had that. Like I played soccer in college as well. And when you're on a team like that, it's like a brotherhood. So like those guys are my brothers too. And that's what it feels like. But like, it was just such a cool thing for a situation like that in music to make them feel like it's the same type of sports brotherhood type level that I've had. It's very interesting that music could do that too. It didn't have to just be, you don't have to be a part of a sports team to reach something like that. So that was really, really, that was a huge blessing and something that was probably priceless compared to everything else that came from this album.
We grinding for the streams. I need the money for some more caffeine. I got more beats than Dwight Schrute. His songs are great. I love it, bro. So I just got 2 more questions for you that I call them the creative questions of the day. So the first question is kind of a scenario question. So I know before this interview, I asked you some pretty random questions. I asked you if you like Marvel, I asked you if you like Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I asked this because I was watching the documentary and I saw Marvel in the background. I saw Avatar: The Last Airbender in the background. So I was like, oh, wait, let me ask about that. And so kind of relating, the reason I chose that theme is because I think with superheroes, we can relate to them sometimes because, they're vulnerable. We get to see the full story of their lives in the movie. We see how they interact with the people they're around, how they're able to overcome things that they've experienced. And so going on with the theme of vulnerability, superheroes, and also healing, I wanted to ask you, if you could have the power of any healing hero, any healing superhero, which hero would you choose? First off, it sounds weird, but Doctor Strange, he actually has some kind of healing power. You see, you can turn the apple into a regular apple. And then we got Katara and Wolverine. So, and there's a couple other options. We got the Hulk, who has speed, fast healing, Flash, and Deadpool. If you could have the power of any healing superhero, who would it be?
Of any healing superhero?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I guess, is Katara a superhero? She's not really a superhero. She's a character, but yeah.
They're superheroes to me.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, superhero.
I would say healing superhero. Oh, man. Well, my favorite Marvel character is Captain America.
All right.
And I love his fast healing. So he, it's weird because his metabolism burns so fast, he can't get drunk, stuff like that. Also he's, if he gets cut, it starts to heal, almost like Wolverine. Stuff like that. But I think but water bending would be so cool.
I know, bro. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, water bending would be so cool because you can use it both as a healing and yeah. You know what? Honestly, it'd probably be like Katara.
Nice.
That'd be awesome because there's also earth, air, fire, but water.
Dude.
It's just the healing powers from that. I'd rather be a water bender. That'd be so cool.
All right. So my last question for you, Isaac, is what does the phrase "create to inspire" mean to you?
It means, for me, create to inspire means just setting a good example and, creating art that is going to influence the next generation to create even stuff that's even better than what you made. So that's what it means to me. It's my mentality is I always want for the people who care about me and pour into me, and I want them to get to where I'm at and even go even further than that. That's what I want for them. I want them to go even further than what I can go. And same thing for the people that I inspire in the future. If I do that, I want them to be inspired to take it even farther than what I have done. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Isaac, for hopping on the corner. Where can people follow you, support you, check out your music, or any of that? Yeah. So anytime you want to follow me on any socials, it's just IRG Music. I think the only different one is Twitter, which is IRG_music. And then all of my streaming platforms are .IRG. But yeah, the easiest way to reach out to me is through Instagram, just DM. I'm always, even if it's nothing business related, if it's just people just want to talk, I'm always down for it, just to chat and have a good conversation. So just send me a message and get a conversation going. For you guys watching at home, hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of the Create to Inspire Corner with Isaac. We chatted about healing, vulnerability, and creativity, and I hope this played a role in your life. And to end today's episode off, I want to give you guys a quote by Brene Brown, and it says here, "Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change." So let's continue to embrace vulnerability so that we can truly go on and create to inspire. Peace.